Okay, so here is part 2 of the videos on digital storytelling, chapter 1. Okay, so to continue on with page 9, I do want you to notice that with digital storytelling, again, that the author is stressing that digital storytelling often has drama that involves the participant, and also symbolic or mystical values and multi-sensory elements to it. So basically, that means that as we watch digital storytelling, that we as viewers also participate in the story itself. That drama may be of a low level or it may be of a high level, but that all depends on the story. There's also symbolic or mystical value. You can really see that coming to the forefront these days with the real sort of passion around cosplay and anime, and myths and science fiction and lands of long ago, far, far away. This has become quite the thing these days in our storytelling. And also that they're multi-sensory. That we have the visual and the audio, so that's more than one stimulant. But then we also have the symbolic values of the items that we see and that we hear in front of us. So I want to turn the page here to page 10 and focus in for just a minute with an example of the hero's journey. Now, this book oftentimes will come back to gaming, and gaming will become important to our class later on in the semester. But at this point, I just want to talk a little bit about somebody you probably all recognize, Mario. Okay? I'm going to use him as an example because I'm sure all of us have played Mario at some point in our lives. And so this is an example that we can all relate to. It has been a long time since I played Mario, though, so I had to turn to Wikipedia for a little bit of help. But I think Mario is a good example of the hero and the hero's journey. And even though he's, not stereotypical hero, what he goes through as our protagonist in the game is important. He has to go rescue, let's see here. Again, it's been a while since I've played this. Where's the princess? I just read it. Let's see here. Well, there's a princess that he has to rescue, of course. And, he has to also avoid the gorillas and the barrels that are being thrown at him. And he's the hero because he's on the search for something, right? He's also protecting someone. Let's see here. Princess Peach. There we go. He has to rescue Princess Peach from the Koopa villain Bowser. So he's good, fighting evil. He is our hero. He's on a quest, right? And he's trying to make it all the way to the end and survive all of these evil people who are trying to bring him down. And along the way, of course, he also has to save someone, typically a woman. In this case, Princess Peach. So he would be an example of a hero. And this is again a good example of digital storytelling these days, is that normally our protagonist is somebody that we're rooting for, that they're fighting against something, and that we have to watch them persevere through challenge after challenge and win. Sometimes we even get to participate in that activity, just like you do in games. The participation can be very different at times. I already showed you an example of participation on Welcome to Sanditon. That's very different from the participation of Mario Brothers, right? Because as a user of Mario, you're actually controlling him. Whereas here, the protagonists already have a set storyline that they're following, but nevertheless, we as users participate in different ways. Now, next, I want to discuss linear versus non-linear. This is a concept that confuses some people when you're talking about storytelling. And first, I thought we could see what linear looks like by looking at the book. And I love this video because this video is actually entitled How to Read a Book. And hopefully we all know how to read books, but I wanted to stop and think about this for a minute. When you see this book, you can see this is chapter 1 right here, correct? And if you were going to start reading this book, you would read chapter 1, and then you would start at the left-hand corner, and you'd read across the sentence to the end. Then you come down to the next line, You read from left to right, and you just keep doing that, right? Until you turn the page. And then when you get to the next page, we can't see it here on the screen, but you would again start at the upper left-hand corner and read down, and then you just keep turning the pages one after another until you reach the end. So yes, you can let your mind wander, but you don't typically, when you open up a book or a novel, you start at page 1 and you read from left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, turn the page, and you keep doing that over and over again until the book ends. That's what's considered a linear narrative. You don't open up a book typically, start at chapter 20 and then jump to chapter 3 and then go to chapter 4 and then chapter 1. That's just not the way that you read a book, because it's a linear book. Now, if we go back to Mario, of course we have all played computer games. We know you start at level 1 and you keep trying to do level 1 over and over again until you get to level 2. So it does seem kind of linear in a way as well. But we also know that you can skip around in computer games, that the activity is not always set. That sometimes you'll die, sometimes you'll live, sometimes you'll get to level 3, sometimes you won't get past level 1. That would be an example of a nonlinear text. The game changes, the story changes every time you play it. That's what keeps bringing us back. Yes, there are some consistent things. There's level 1, then level 2, then level 3. But nevertheless, the story is not always the same. Whereas this book that they're reading here, every time you open this book, the pages are going to be in the same order. The words are going to be in the same order. Even if you write on it, that doesn't change the book. It just puts a layer over what's already there. The book never changes, right? Whereas this can change. Same here. This is non-linear, even though the videos play from, second 2 to 3.5 or almost 4 minutes in the exact same order each time. You could pause it here in the middle and click on this person's profile and see who Jazzy Ya is. Their avatar and their description is not very exciting, but you can see what Jazzy Ya likes. You might get sucked into reading or viewing Jazzy Ya's videos, and then be like, "Oh, this is boring," and then go back. This would be an example of a non-linear text, because again, even though the authors didn't originally put this information in here, it has become part of the story because of its placement on the same page. These all become interconnected. You can also, look here, see what the likes are. Oops, I'm unliking it. No, let's like it again. You can come over here. You can look at the statistics if you want to. Whoa, look at that. More and more people are watching it. It just keeps on being watched. So this is another example of a nonlinear text. In other words, things are not always in the same order. You can come back. The URL might change. There might be more comments. There might be another video. And that adds to the story. But that you don't necessarily need to watch them in order. We don't have to watch all of the videos before we get to the comments, for example. Okay? Now, one thing that we see in digital text is what's called a breaking of the fourth wall. This term comes from the theater, where there are 3 walls in the theater. The wall behind the actors, and then the 2 walls on the left and the right side of the actors. And then there's an imaginary wall that separates the audience from the actors. And typically the actors pretend like the audience isn't there. In digital storytelling, that norm is reversed. In digital storytelling, typically what happens is that the protagonist and the other characters break the fourth wall and directly address the audience. Obviously, this is asynchronous. This actress here recorded this, and then it was edited and then uploaded, and then, hours, days, months later, we watch it. But still, nevertheless, because she's looking at us, because she's talking to us, we feel like we're being addressed. And this is very typical of digital storytelling. Now, what I want to draw your attention to now is pages 17, 18, and 19 in the textbook. These are helpful pages for kind of, thinking about how to organize your thoughts about the chapter. Now that you've read all the examples and you've listened to my lecture, on page 17, you have a list of what Miller calls the special characteristics of digital storytelling, and she states that works of digital storytelling are always types of narratives, works that contain characters. They're interactive, they're nonlinear, they're deeply immersive, they're participatory, and they're navigable. In other words, you can move around into them. Now, but I want you to also notice not just what I highlighted, but also that she has some caveats in there, or some additional information. That, these are the 7 things that she says is in all, that is always in digital storytelling. I think sometimes, 1 or 2 are missing, and you can still call the story digital storytelling. But this is a good handy list to keep in mind as we go forward, when you're trying to recognize what is digital storytelling and what is not. I like to think of those 7 items as a common core. When you go on to page 18, there is a very long list. It gives you additional items that have been discussed over the chapter, of items that are often found in digital storytelling. Not always, but just often. And again, you want to go through this, read through it, think about these items that she had, and try to attach them to examples that you've experienced in your real life, in your own life. And then on page 19, we've got a nice little graph that kind of boils it down. It's like, okay, here we have given you all this information, then organized it into handy dandy set of bullet points on pages 17 and 18. Now here are your real takeaways. What is the difference between traditional stories and works of digital storytelling? And so again, another example to kind of drive the point home about what makes digital storytelling different from analog storytelling or oral storytelling. Okay? Now if you turn to page 20, you'll see on here that there's a header that says idea generating exercises, and underneath that are 4 questions. Your assignment for today, well, not for today, for this week, is to answer question number 1. So be thinking about your life in a traditional ritual that you've participated in that has an interactive narrative. In other words, something that you've participated in that is part of a larger story, part of our historical and cultural traditions. I gave you an example at the end of the last video from my life, and so hopefully this will help you to think about it. Again, refer back to the story of the Seder dinner, where she says this is an in real life, active, interactive narrative that has historical, symbolic meaning to it, and that everyone participates in. So go back, think about that, write up a paragraph. I will be posting the link on Moodle here in a bit. Okay. Now I'm going to be putting up at least 2 more videos, one for Sanditon, and explain to you how Sanditon is going to be working within our website in your larger web project, and then also a video on what is the other thing we're doing today? Betterments. The meaning of the medium is the message. Okay, and that is a confusing article. It's very short, but it is confusing, so you're going to be wanting to watch that video.